Hello. Hey, actually, I'm 12th house Mercury, and Mercury in the 12th house is so intelligent. And I can talk to dead people, but also living people, but also shadows of people. That's the depth of Mercury in 12th house. But also, I have good look, but I fight a lot. And it seems to have planets in the 12th house. You must have fought a lot to have planet in the 12th house. That's what I believe. People who have planets in the 12th house have fought a lot. That's what I believe. Because it's the last house. How to take any moving planet to that house. Either you're born with it or either you fight a lot so it goes to the maximum house. Because the 12th house is seen as the house of loss, but I would say it's the house of the grand arena, and it's the world's biggest arena, the 12th house. And if you're good, you then become very good, or you lose in the biggest arena because the 12th house, anyone that has a planet or is born with a planet in the 12th house has moved that planet there, but they can be born with it but will not have it. But I believe if you're born with it, then you can see ghosts or at least talk to ghosts. Something like that. But that's the grand arena. And people with 12th house stuff are very strong. But I myself have Mercury retrograded in 12th house. And that is what I'm using right now to actually make YouTube and stuff. But I just watched that guy, that RKS guy, he say Mercury in the 12th house is like good, but also like, alienation, stuff like that, loss of education, and things like that. But honestly, it's not. It's the grand arena. It's where you're challenged. But it has an aspect of Pluto, an aspect of destruction, because it is the last arena. So that's the problem. Any planet in the 12th house has a strong aspect of Pluto. But also, Pluto is the planet of final destruction, but also most enlightenment. So if either you get an epiphany with that planet, you fly high or you crash. And say it's like water, it can flow, or if it freezes like ice because the arena is so tough, then it can break and crash. And then eventually melt back again. But then it's not in the 12th house. Then it's in one of the worst houses. So you remember, it's like water, like Bruce says, it can flow or it can crash. But before it crashes, it has to freeze. But if it freezes, it's because you could not fight in the highest arena, the 12th house. Then that water, that ice cube can actually crash. It can actually, be broken into many pieces. But then when the changing of the season comes, it melts back. But honestly, then that planet is not in the 12th house anymore. But people have planets in the 12th house, but they lose it a lot of the time. And I think someone will maximally, if they don't pass the test of the 12th house, lose that planet in the 12th house within a period of, let's say, 6 months, or like 1 year. Within that period they will lose it because that's how often a living planet is in the 12th house in a person's body, because they say chart, but chart is also body, and that's how we feel it in a person's body. And honestly, it will not last long in the 12th house if you don't pass. Then it freezes, then it crashes. Or then the person actually just just like says, like, depletes all the water from that 12th house and then it ends. But either way, That's how the loss comes, because in RKS channel he's saying 12th house is loss maybe of intelligence and stuff like that. I can see how it's loss of stuff, because when it's the grand arena, some fighters don't fight long enough for the water to freeze and crash, because maybe they're defeated. Because you have to think like that. In 12th house, you can be defeated in the 12th house. But they can actually do something, retreat from that arena, and try to go to something like the 11th house. And that's how you have some Aquarius bullshit rising up. But they will not be like 11th house. If they're bad, maybe they get like fat, or and that completely changes their chart, because your chart is like your body. If you get fat, it changes your like chart, because they would change something in their habits to actually retreat from that 12th house. So either they get fat, if they get skinny, they still have it in an aspect like very strong, but if they get fat, they lose that planet in the 12th house. And eventually, because they lose that planet in the 12th house, they are not able to do stuff such as running. Maybe they get even a leg injury, or back injury, or mind injury, or mind confusion, or anything, or sight problems. But I think stomach is also linked with the 12th house, because Virgo is at its opposite. So when you have planets in the 12th house, if you don't want to crash, you better be drinking water, plenty of water, and actually clear your diet, because Virgo is the virgin. The virgin doesn't eat anything. The virgin's gut is clear and pure. And that's how deep the planets in the 12th house is, because in the grand arena you don't have time to waste making excuses, not changing the diet. Especially if you don't change the diet, that year that planet goes to that 12th house is maybe your last day. It's like doom for you. Because as soon as that happens, you eat that bad diet, that 12th house is so rubbish. Because that 12th house is like water, but you can imagine water in a person's body. And if you eat bad food, that water is polluted so much. And eventually, that 12th house is like all of your water, is like your big water, your ocean. If you eat bad food, your ocean gets polluted fast. Why? Because the link between your mind and body is closer when you have a planet in the 12th house. If you have Venus in the 12th house, the link between beauty and your mind, and the stuff of Venus is so close linked between your mind and body that it's easy for you to manifest. So for me, I have like Mercury, but I could also say like Mars in the 12th house. It's easier for me to manifest stuff of that, because it's in the grand arena. And if I'm using it, I can manifest this because it's always in my mind. But you should not crash. You must flow like water. And that's the wisdom of Bruce Lee. But also in the 12th house, you have dead ghosts of bad people. I call them generals, generals of war, because you will also meet them. Don't fall in their traps, because they try to trap you there. Even and the most planet I suspect a lot of people are going to have in the 12th house is actually Mercury. That's when they see ghosts and stuff. But either way, if you know how to punch, you can punch your way all the way to the 12th house. It's like the first house, the punch. Because say, if you can punch, you can actually open doors in any house if you can punch. And nothing in the 12th house can resist you. So it's like the first house. And the first house is like Aries. Aries is that punch that honestly opens all the doors. So just remember that. Remember to punch your way out of that 12th house. And actually, remember the Virgo aspect of the 12th house. You have to clear your diet. Any planet in the 12th house will crash. And if you're someone who is born with a lot of planet in the 12th house, you'll have unique health and maybe stomach problems, issues with food, like very early on as a kid. But it's good. because you're smarter than others. But the problem is, it's because of the 12th house. When you have planets in the 12th house, you're smarter than others. So it's good. Don't be saddened by that. But the thing is, you have to watch your diet. You have to watch your diet. Because you can and the 12th house enemy is like poison. So when you have planets in the 12th house, clear your diet. Because the enemy of that house is poison. And poison is the enemy of the virgin. But also, in a lot of movies, sometimes the virgin takes the poison because he doesn't want to live on. But either way, don't take the poison, the toxins in your body. So, the 12th house is the planet in which anything you do is at its peak, is at its utmost. But be careful. You have to detox, good diet. You have to remember Virgo, the opposite of the 12th house. And the 12th house is like Pisces. So I say Virgo. And the 6th house, is diet. It's actually your stomach. But if you don't eat good, you have breathing problems. Maybe you get fat, maybe you get too skinny. So that is also an aspect. But as a planet stays long in the 12th house, you have to know some basic inner breathing techniques. And this is like what I've shown in my channel. It's kind of easy. Actually, put some paper here. But either way, breathing is important. And also releasing. When you have planets in the 12th house, don't be afraid to come. Even if you see a ghost that day, don't be afraid to come if it's your day to come or have sexual release. Because the trap of the 12th house is also creating tension in the mind. Like, so the person freezes to ice and then they become fat. And then they do something, maybe they become gay. And honestly, they lose that planet in the 12th house as that happens. Because of that, you must protect the 12th house and not become gay or fat or something like that. But you have to watch your breathing and eat good diet and inhale deep and exhale deep. And even if you're afraid, they say with a planet in the 12th house, the scariest is not the ghosts, is not the voices, it's not being able to do sexual release. That's the scariest thing because that's how the 12th house is kept clean. If you are good with sexual releases, it's good for you. Then honestly, you would not have problems with your 12th house. Because I know when people have problems with the 12th house, oftentimes what's needed is sexual release. So also the 12th house, a lot of people think it's like undoing, but no, because the warriors of life is already very strong in your body. Even if you're not the biggest, it's already at the world arena. And you should not have issues releasing because people then don't release, they keep it inside. Then the 12th house freezes and then the water crash like a big ice cube. And honestly, then what they start to talk about is fat loss because that once that ice cube freezes. But also, when you have planets in the 12th house, if you watch my videos, you can see the exhale I did with my mouth, like breathing out. Is also something you're supposed to avoid. But I'm letting that be because it still is a good technique to use. But you should not use it if you have something in the 12th house because that something is pure talent. You have to let it grow. So exhaling from the mouth during sex, don't do that. And if you feel something like gushing air out of your mouth, just do this. Hold your mouth and focus on breathing. That's also an exercise of 12th house any planet. Do this and breathe deep. That's the exercise of anything in 12th house. And don't be afraid of releasing the tension because sometimes the tubes have something stuck in it and the water don't flow. And if the water don't flow, it can crash. and your system can crash. So better release the creek so the 12th house can flow. And also daily activity is good. But like Bruce Lee says, if you don't flow, you can crash. Something like that. But also it's good if you are a fighter because world arena means you have to be ready to fight. But if you're a kid with planets in the 12th house, you should early on learn how to fight and also breathe deep and even do this exercise like this and then breathe deep. And we can do this to actually cut this video. So this is in 1, 3, go, and we say like Bruce Lee. And like Telma, that's my name. So peace out, love, and big hug. And that's 12th house. Remember that and have a good time.